that's a cult, with the photographer saying he was crying for his mum. And as his lawyer points out, the evidence the government showed to justify that is ridiculous.
In Andri's case, the only evidence the government presented in immigration court were these pictures of his tattoos. Crowns, which immigration authorities say can be a symbol of Tren de Aragua.
The crowns themselves were on top of the names of his parents. The most plausible explanation for that are that his mom and dad are his king and queen.
A Department of Homeland Security spokeswoman said on social media that its intelligence assessments go well beyond just gang affiliate tattoos. She said Andri's own social media indicates he is a member of Tren de Aragua. We went back a decade and could only find photos like these.
That is utterly infuriating. That is your evidence? What about this man? Screams violent gang member. The only thing I'm actually confident he's a genuine threat to is unaccented cheekbones. And for what it's worth, there are no tattoos that denote membership to TDA. An expert who wrote the book on them has said Venezuelan gangs are not identified by tattoos. But apparently the Trump administration has been relying on an alien enemy validation guide, specifically its scoring system, under which 8 points are required for any individual to be identified as a member of Tren de Aragua. But that is not a high bar, as you can get 4 points simply for having tattoos denoting membership or loyalty to TDA, which again is not a thing, and 4 points if you display logos or dress known to indicate allegiance to TDA, which can be as simple as being dressed in high-end urban streetwear, especially basketball jerseys from the Chicago Bulls. But that is clearly bullshit, because if that is all it takes, then 75% of the city of Chicago are TDA from October to April, and somehow it gets even dumber.
Tattoos and social media were also used to link another Venezuelan migrant, Herce Reyes Barrios, to the Tren de Aragua gang. Immigration court documents include this Facebook post from 14 years ago, showing him flashing what officers said was a gang sign. His girlfriend told us it was all about rock and roll. Immigration agents also flagged Herce's crown tattoo as a gang symbol, but they did not mention the crown is above a soccer ball. Herce was a soccer player in Venezuela. His lawyer says the tattoo honors his favorite team, Real Madrid.
That is pathetic. And as for this picture of Herce supposedly throwing up gang signs, if that were true, Rihanna, Fergie, and former President George W. Bush are all Tren de Aragua too. But when confronted on this report, the government's been completely unrepentant. Early on, they violated a judge's orders to turn around planes carrying deportees to El Salvador, and even after the Supreme Court explicitly directed they facilitate Abrego Garcia's release from custody there, they've chosen to dick around about the exact meaning of the word facilitate. As for Trump, when he was pressed on whether the people he sent to El Salvador...
My shorts have been viewed over 4 million times by my therapist. I'm not wrong. My shorts have been viewed over 4 million times by my therapist. I'm not wrong. My shorts have been viewed over 4 million times by my therapist.
So a few years ago, maybe a decade or so, this big coast redwood came down in a windstorm, got a bit of windfall here, but it crossed a road. So us humans had to saw it up so we could get our cars through. But this gives us a really interesting look at the vascular tissue of these trees and how they function. So starting first on the outside, we've got the bark layer here, this thick, fibrous bark that's created by the phloem here. As it transports sugar down, it'll push out so that old walls of phloem become the bark. And then we have the xylem on the inside here, the sapwood. This little line here, this is what draws water up from the roots. And then we've got the heartwood here, this kind of firm, darker part here. The heartwood of these trees, like all members of the Cupressaceae family, are really resistant to rot and decay because they have a lot of volatile oils in them, notably pheoplycin, which is what gives these trees that kind of fresh, aromatic, citrusy smell to them. So that pheoplycin prevents rot and fungi and bacteria and all sorts of things from destroying the heartwood of the tree, which is what makes them so strong and long-lived. But you can see here in the sapwood, the xylem, that it wasn't fully formed with all those volatile oils, so it's been able to be colonized by all these saprotropic fungi here A bit of mold here, but like I'm not exactly sure what species of fungi this is, because I'm not really that fun of a guy. Just kidding, that's a terrible pun. No, because I'm just not from the area and I don't know what this is. Maybe a sulfur cap of some kind. I'll look it up and throw it into the description. But really cool because you can see how it's eating the sapwood, but not touching the outer bark or the hardwood here because of those oils. Pretty dang neat. So a few years ago, maybe a decade or so, this big coast redwood came down in a windstorm. Got a bit of windfall here, but it crossed a road. So us humans had to saw it up so we could get our cars through. But this gives us a really interesting look at the vascular tissue of these trees and how they function. So starting first on the outside, we've got the bark layer here, this thick, fibrous bark that is created by the phloem here. As it transports sugar down, it'll
Join Block Dad 2025. Participate and see your contribution grow to new heights.
The Real ID deadline. That means all adults will need a Real ID or an acceptable alternative like a passport in order to clear airport security in the U.S. and to board a commercial flight. All the parties live at PDF. So, Alma, first things first, what happens if somebody does not have that tomorrow?
Yeah, well, David, this Real ID deadline, it has been looming for quite a while. But TSA says that there is a bit of a grace period. You can still fly tomorrow if you don't have this specific kind of identification. However, you are going to want to show up to the airport a little bit earlier because it could take you longer to get through security. Inside PDX, even if you don't see the signs, travelers say they already know what's needed come Wednesday.
2003 is when they started talking, and really, in 2005 is when they actually did it, and here we are.
Enforcement of Real ID beginning at airports across the country. TSA estimating that more than 80% of passengers already use Real ID or other acceptable documents.
I felt like I was ahead of the game. You know, I felt bad for people who were like, what? Real ID? I don't know what that is. I'm like, you better.
Here's what they look like in Oregon. That star in the top right corner is the key. In Washington, they're called enhanced IDs, and they'll have an American flag by your photo. As recently as this week, at DMVs across the Portland metro,
The wait sucks if you don't have an appointment.
Oregonians faced long lines waiting to apply.
Well, I thought I had it, and then I looked at my ID when I was getting ready to book my flight for Vegas, and then I just saw that it needed that little circle on the side with that star, and I'm like, dang it, I gotta get it.
The purpose behind all this, setting minimum federal security standards for people seeking to fly within the U.S. or accessing some federal facilities. Congress passed the Real ID Act back in 2005, based on a recommendation from the 9/11 Commission. Over the years, the deadline's been pushed back numerous times.
Yeah, I knew this is coming. It was very well published. I do have a passport as well, but I thought, Real ID is not bad to have.
For travelers still without Real ID compliant identification, Homeland Security reports you can still fly for now, though you may have to go through additional screening.
I feel like they've already given everybody a grace period. I mean, like, they should have done this already. It's not that hard.
So I asked a TSA spokesperson specifically about when that grace period might end. They couldn't give me an answer, only reiterating that enforcement of Real ID starts tomorrow. David, back to you.
Yeah, it sounds like they might not be sure either. I love that passenger, by the way. It's not that hard, she says. Thanks, Alma. Hey, we want to make sure it's clear you only need a Real ID if you are flying or entering certain federal buildings. If you don't have one, yes, you can still get one. Here's what you'll need to bring to the DMV. Think 1, 2, 3. You'll need one proof of identity. It can be a passport, birth certificate, or other legal resident documentation. Then 2, proofs of address. So a number of things: an unexpired license or car registration, a business mail addressed to you, a pay stub or a rental agreement, and now 3, expect your real ID to arrive in the mail in about, not 3 days, 3 weeks. If you still have questions about all of this, text us using the number on your screen. It's 503-226-5088. We're going to sort through it all, and tomorrow morning starting at 9, we'll bring you some of the answers. It's as part of team coverage at airports across the Pacific Northwest. Download the KGW Plus app on your smart TV anytime, and you can watch for free.